Hey team, we are on factoring special products in your flip book. So this should be the 1, 2, 3, 4th tab. So it says special products on it, okay? So open to the page with special products, okay? So we've we've multiplied special products, and that's what this looked like, right? So we did this, probably 2, 3 weeks ago already, where we have x times x is x squared, x times -5 is -5x, 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times -5 is -25, right? And we notice that if we combine like terms here, what happens? They cancel, right? So this is what we're left with. We're left with no middle term, right? We just have the two end caps. So today our job is to factor something that looks like this. And we'll end up with things that look pretty similar, like right here, right? So we're going to be looking for a lot of patterns and then our perfect squares. Like what number times itself is going to give you this last number here, okay? So just real quickly, if we look at this one again, just so we can see it, x times x is x squared, x times -8 is -8x, 8 times x is positive 8x, and 8 times -8 is -64. Again, you guys see how those will cancel out, so you're just left with x squared minus 64. So just one more time, we're going to go from this guy to this today. So in your flip book, this is where you should be. Oh, sorry, I skipped way too far ahead. This is where you should be, right here. So a squared minus b squared, this is your formula. This is what it's going to end up looking like if you want to jot that down at the very top. And now let's practice an example. So again, we're going to factor this so it's into two binomials, right? So you're thinking you want them to look kind of similar minus the signs. So since I have a minus sign, I know I'm going to have a plus and a minus, okay? And now what number times itself gives you 9? If you look at your factor sheet, you just should see that it's 3 and 3, and don't forget the x, right? Because it's 3x and 3x. 3x and 3x. Okay, now you're looking at your factor sheet and you're trying to figure out what multiplies to itself to give you 16. So if you look at 16, where do you see a repeat? It should be 4, right? 4 times 4 is 16. And now always double check, you guys. I know it seems to be like a lot of work and we kind of get lazy sometimes, but you want to check. 4 times 3x would be 12x. 3x times -4x is -12x. If we combine those, you guys see how they cancel out and we get 0. So we indeed found that the factored form is right here. That's it. All right, let's try another one. So again, we're factoring this. So you're looking at your factor sheet here. What times what is 25? Well, hopefully you're thinking 5 and 5. Now we get the n squared, so tack on an n. Again, we're going to have opposite signs because we're multiplying to a negative. So one's a plus, one's a minus. And what number times itself is 81? It's 9. So let's check. 9 times 5 is 45n. 5n times -9 is -45n. If we combine like terms, those go away. So we are good to go. Now 15, the last one here, is a little different because if we look at our factor sheet, there's no number times itself that's going to give me an 8. And there's no number times itself that's going to give me an 18. So this kind of ties into our last lesson. Can I find a GCF? What can I pull out of an 8 and an 18? Well, 2, right? So I can divide both of those by 2, and then we'll see what happens. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. -8 divided by 2 is -9, and then tack on that g squared. So now we have something that's more manageable for us. So I'm going to bring down that 2 because that's part of my answer. We're going to put this back into 2 sets of parentheses. What number times itself is 4? a 2, and a 2. What number times itself is 9, a 3, and a 3? Don't forget to add the g. And then since we're multiplying to a negative number, I know I need a plus and a minus. And again, let's check just real quick, you guys. 3g times 2 is 6g. 2g times negative 3g would be negative 6g. Those cancel. We are good to go. Good job. Okay. Now let's bring it back a second for the next part here. Do you guys remember what you're supposed to do when you expand this polynomial? Remember that squared means you're multiplying it by itself. So that means I'm really taking it times itself twice. So if we FOIL this out, that's x squared, 9x, another 9x, and finally 81. Combining like terms here, x squared, 9x plus 9x is 18x plus 81. So we're going to go backwards now. We're going to start here, and we're going to end up over here. So what we're going to find is we're going to find two binomials that are identical to get to our trinomial. Okay? So if you guys look, here is your generic formula that we will end up with. So jot that down and let's try this together. This first one's really nice. It's a nice kind of easy one to ease into it. Again, we're going into two binomials. The only way to get to x squared is an x and an x. I'm adding to a positive number and I'm multiplying to a positive number, so I know it's going to be plus, plus. Now what number times itself gives me a 9? Well, that's a 3. And that's a 3. So a few ways you can check yourself. One, let's do what we normally do. Let's multiply out 3x. That's a 3x. If I add them together, I get that 6x. So that's good because that's what my middle term is. Another way you can check yourself on this one, do you guys see how this is the exact same as this? So that's another way. So you can either write your answer like this if you want to be fancy, x plus 3 squared. That's an answer. You could write it like this. Or you could leave it as x plus 3 times x plus 3. Either of these are good answers. They mean the same thing, okay? So both of those are good answers for this question. Okay, I'm going to erase this so I can write over here. Okay, on 17, don't get bent out of shape. They just wrote it kind of goofy. It's the same kind of ordeal here. We have two variables, but it's okay. Don't get bent out of shape. So we're going to plug back in to our two binomials. We're thinking in our head, what multiplies 2 by itself to get to 4? Well, that's a 2 and a 2. Don't forget about the g for our g squared. My signs are going to be plus, plus. Now, how do we multiply to an h squared? Well, that's an h and an h. So again, check yourself. We do have the same thing written twice, so that is a good way to check. But the best way to check, you guys, is to check the middle terms, okay? H times 2g would just be 2gh. Kind of goofy, but that's what it is. 2g times h is, again, 2gh. If I combine those, how many gh's do I have? I have 4 gh, which is what we wanted right there. Okay? So you could leave your answer like this. How we have it there, the two binomials. Like there, folks. Or you could write it fancy, 2g plus h squared. Both are good answers. Both ways are correct. Let's bring it back one more time. So now this time, instead of a plus sign, we have a minus. So don't forget, this means that you're taking it times itself twice. So if we FOIL it out, we're going to get x squared, negative 4x, plus 16. Combine those guys, x squared minus 8x plus 16. So again, we're going to be going from here to something that looks like this. And it's going to look similar to what we just did, but our signs are going to be minuses. Okay? So your generic formula is up here, a minus b quantity squared. So let's try the first one. This is another nice one. We've been doing these kinds. You just didn't know what you were doing right away, that you were doing special products. But we've seen these problems before. It's kind of nice. X squared is just an x times an x. I'm combining to a negative number but multiplying to a positive, so I know it has to be minus minus. Okay? Now, what number multiplies to 25 but combines to a 10? Remember, you only have two options, 1 and 25 and 5 and 5. Which ones would combine to a negative 10? These guys. So there we go. Again, check yourself. These are the same, which is how we get that squared. So we check out there. But most importantly, let's FOIL it out. So we get negative 5x. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. We combine them, negative 10x, which is what we wanted. Good work. So everything is right in the world. So you can leave your answer like this. Or you could write it as x minus 5 squared. Both are great. Both are correct. I think you should pause the video. Try this last one on your own. It's kind of nice, another easy softball. Okay, I hope you tried it. I hope you ended up with an answer something like this. N minus 6, N minus 6. Again, let's go through the process of checking it. I did get the same thing, so again, that's why I get that squared. So I check that off correctly. Or, again, work it out. Negative 6n, negative 6n, combine those to our negative 12n. So we, of course, put everything in the right place. We have the right signs. So our final answer could be right here. Or n minus 6 squared. Good work. So your summary, folks, what you can write down is look for perfect squares and patterns. There's really no other way to think about it. Okay? Use that factor chart, use your reasoning skills, and do what you can. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.